Hello there, and welcome to the Meaningful Stitch. This is episode 57, and I am Amy Palco, and I'm coming to you from Edinburgh, Scotland. And this is my digital home from home, a place where I get to share with you my knitting practice and my knitting projects, of which there are many. There's lots of knitting goodness to come. But if you are a regular viewer of this channel, then you know that we begin with a card drawn from one of my many oracle decks. And so today I'd like to share a card drawn from this particular one. It's quite a new one to me. It's The Rooted Woman by Sharon Blackie. And the card that I drew is actually a card that I've now drawn twice in a row. I always find it quite significant when a card is drawn more than once, but particularly when it's drawn twice in a row. So this is the card. It's The Buried Moon, the Hidden Feminine. Just looking at it just now, it rather matches the colours of the blanket that I've got here on the back of the futon. But there we go, the Hidden Feminine. So I'll read the words to you from the guide. In a very old tale from the fens of eastern England, the moon decides to take a journey into the marshland and becomes trapped there by the dark things that inhabit it. She's buried in a black hole because the dark things are intent on destroying the power of the moon. They despise her light and want to extinguish it. The Buried Moon card represents the lost heart of the feminine, the heart which holds all the secrets of sustaining life. Hers is a story that countless women have experienced through all the long ages of our existence in patriarchal cultures which are so afraid of female power that they've gone to extravagant lengths to suppress it, creating new stories to cover it up. The witch hunters who long ago buried the moon. But like the light of the moon, which still escapes through a slit between the stone that covers her and the marshy land that envelops her, our light can also shine through any cracks we can pry open. The light of those feminine qualities which have been buried so deeply inside us that we've forgotten they even exist, let alone where to find them. So at this stage of our journey, the moon is an ally who encourages us to go deeply back inside ourselves and search for the feminine mystery which has been suppressed over countless centuries, women's ways of knowing and being, constantly waxing and waning, and associated not just with the menstrual cycles of the female body, and therefore with motherhood, but with the wider sphere of death and rebirth. So there we go, the Buried Moon, a particularly beautiful card, I think. And I'm drawing it here while we're still very much in the energy of the new moon, or the dark moon, in Aquarius. That's the point in the sky where the moon and the sun, from our perspective here on Earth, occupy the same place in the sky. And so we don't see the moon at all. It goes completely dark. But then in just a few days, that little sliver of silver appears in our sky, and with it bringing hope for our new beginnings for the next cycle. So I find that a very hopeful card, that even when the feminine is buried, it still exists. It doesn't go away, and there's always ways to connect with it and to bring its light back into the world. So there we go. We have the Rooted Woman and the Buried Moon. And just like the moon is buried underneath water, I am having an issue with my hearing at the moment, and so I don't have any hearing in my right ear, and I haven't had now for about 3 weeks. So the feeling of that actually is being underwater. So just like the moon being under the water, I also feel like I am under the water. But what that means is that I'm kind of struggling to modulate my voice. So sometimes I think I'm speaking very loud and I'm actually speaking very quietly, and vice versa. So I do still have hearing in my left ear, but it did make my trip to Vogue Knitting Live slightly problematic. We still had an absolutely wonderful time, and I'm going to tell you all about that just shortly. But yes, it does mean that if anybody is on my on my right side, I can't hear them at all, and it makes kind of busy social spaces quite challenging. This isn't actually the first time that I've lost my hearing in that ear. I lost it last year also, It is quite a strange and isolating experience, but I'm hopeful, just like last time it came back, I'm sure it's going to come back this time. And I've been to the doctor and it's all being looked into and everything, so it's nothing to worry about. But it's just, I'm sharing it with you in case in case my voice sounds as strange to you as it sounds to me. I keep saying to my husband, can everybody else hear it when I swallow? Or because all the noises that I make are very amplified in my head right now. So yes, I'm hoping the sound will be okay. Fingers crossed. I have situated myself in the back room today. I waited a little bit longer to podcast with the hope that the sun, we've got a very lovely sunny day today, but with the hope that the sun would move just a little bit further to the west and therefore wouldn't be shining directly in my face, blowing out all of my beautiful knitwear. So yes, but that does mean that I may lose the light later on. So fingers crossed that's not going to happen. But I have so much knitting to show you. So let me start with what I'm wearing. And I'm only going to share this piece of what I'm wearing just now, and I will share the other part later on. Promise it'll make sense later. So this is my Fantastitch. Again, if you've watched this channel before, you are probably familiar with it. It has been an ongoing project. I cast it on last summer. I cast it off just before I went to Vogue Knitting Live in New York, so just a few weeks ago. And when I showed it to you last, I had cast it off, but I hadn't blocked it. So I wanted to kind of show it to you, just so that you could see the difference that blocking made, because it really wasn't looking its best when I showed it to you last time. But now it is blocked out. All my points on the chevron border are all looking beautiful and pointy. So basically what I did was I washed it, I let it sit in the water for about 20 minutes or so, and then I pinned it out onto the floor here in my sunroom. Now my sunroom is actually my warmest room in the whole house, so it's quite a good room to try and get things dry in, and it's also a space that we use as a guest room for when people come to stay. So this futon that I'm sitting on extends, but most of the time it's in the form of a sofa, and that means that there's a large space on the floor which is perfect for pinning out, which we need to keep clear in case we ever pull the futon down. So yes, I had this Fantastitch pinned out onto the floor, and as you can see, it is very, 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 very long. That's half of it. I think it's approaching 2.5 meters, if I'm right. So it's a very, very big shawl. There is actually an option to knit it short, to knit it smaller and shorter. I think, where would you cast it off? I'm not entirely sure. Can't quite remember. But I think you definitely wouldn't have this section here. So probably from about there. So you could kind of shorten it. So that would be half of it, which would still be a really large shawl. So, but I had so much of my beautiful yarn left that I really just wanted to keep going with it, and so I did. But there we go. That's the Fantastitch by Stephen West. It's now come off the blocking mat. Oh yes, and I should say, after I pinned it out, I took my blocking pins and I fed the pins through each point, and then I put a pin in the blocking mat so that rather than in the shawl, so that it would extend these points just to create a really kind of crisp edging to the border. So I've spoken to you about these colours that are in this before. Just very briefly, this lovely shade here is Purl's Urban Chaos. This is Le Petit Point de Parisien, I think, in the colourway Remember. This is Debonnaire in Lavender. This colour here and this colour here are specials from Qing Fibre. The dark purple there is Mohair de Fermes de France. And then I've got a very pale, oh there it is, this lovely pale lilac here, which is Knitting for Olive in their Mohair silk in the colourway Unicorn. So I just love it. I'm so pleased. Oh, I should say too is that I held another strand of a lace weight dark purple that I found deep stash, and held that with my Mohair de Fermes de France dark purple, just to kind of create a little bit more stability in the border, so it's not just a fingering weight striped with a mohair with a lace weight. I wanted a little bit more weight and solidity to the border, so I held another lace weight with it, which was, I think it was a tencel blend, so it had a bit more strength to it, a bit more solidity. I keep coming back to that word, but that's what it gives. So there we go. That is the Fantastitch. That's my third, and I love that pattern. It brings me so much joy. It feels like a party on the needles, and it creates, I think, a very dramatic shawl, which is actually very easy to pair with lots and lots of things. And in my previous video, I showed you how I used this shawl to determine what my capsule closet, my capsule wardrobe would be for my trip to New York. So I chose various different jumpers that would coordinate, and accessories that would coordinate with the colours in the shawl. And I actually find these kinds of multicoloured shawls very good for bringing together a lot of items in our wardrobes. So there we go. That's what I'm wearing. I am also wearing something really rather lovely underneath, but I will tell you more about that shortly, because what I want to do is really tell you about our trip to New York. So it was my mum, well, it will be my mum's birthday, my mum's 70th birthday in March. And so she really wanted to go to Vogue Knitting Live as part of her birthday celebrations. And so we went together and we had just the most marvellous time. So I could sit here and tell you all about it, but actually let's go back in time and to the morning that we checked out of our hotel. We stayed in the Marriott Marquis, which was actually in Times Square, and was where Vogue Knitting Live was held. And so let's go back to that morning, and Mum and I will tell you all about our experience of Vogue Knitting Live. Hello there, we're coming to you from New York, from our hotel room. We are going to be checking out very shortly, but before we do so, we thought we would fill you in on our fabulous trip that we've really enjoyed. We have packed all of our acquisitions, so we won't be sharing those with you just now. I'll maybe be sharing some of my acquisitions in the larger video that this will form a part of. But just for just now, we wanted to check in with you and let you know what we've been up to, what classes we took, the events we went to, and how we found New York. So, Mum, how did you get on? Have you enjoyed your time here?
Oh, absolutely. I've had a whale of a time.
So we should say that we came over here as part of an extended birthday celebration. And the last time we came over here together was for another one of your birthdays.
It was.
30 years ago. So yes, we haven't been to New York together in quite a long time.
No.
So, but it was lovely to revisit it and to do Vogue Knitting Live, which is what we were here to experience. And that's a real kind of bucket list item for us, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. I think one of the things that really sets apart Vogue for us from some of the other festivals that we've attended is the classes, because we attended a lot of classes this time round. We went to one together on the Friday, and we went to classes separately on the Saturday, and we attended some lectures. And because we were all in, because it's a birthday celebration, we also attended the cocktail reception game night on Friday evening, and we went to the gala dinner on the Saturday, which was wonderful too. So we'll just kind of fill you in a little bit on what we were up to and what we made of it all. Does that sound okay, Mum?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So we arrived on Wednesday, but we were really pretty tired on Wednesday, weren't we?
We were.
Yeah, we decided that we were going to stay in the hotel that the event was happening in, just because we don't know New York at all, and we thought, you know, if everything is happening under one roof, it's very contained and we don't have to figure out where we're going or anything like that.
And it's very cold outside.
And it is very cold outside. So we don't really have to leave, do we? We have. We haven't spent our whole time in the hotel. But also,
nearly.
We didn't need to. I know there's a cloakroom, I think, for you to check your coats in. But we didn't have to do that because we could just go downstairs without our coats. So that made
Down
things.
in the lift, not
Yes,
the stairs.
Down in the lift. It took us a wee while to figure the elevators out here, but now we have. We're doing okay.
Because we're on the 42nd floor.
Yes, we're up very high. I'm glad we weren't using the stairs. So yes, we arrived on Wednesday, but we're really very tired, so we didn't stay up too long. We had a slight Prosecco incident on the Wednesday because I had arranged for a bottle of Prosecco to be waiting in our hotel room when we arrived, and it wasn't here when we arrived. And we went downstairs for dinner, and when we came back it still wasn't here. And I checked the email, and actually it said it would be delivered between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. And we had already decided that we were going to try and stay up till 10 p.m. to try and combat some of the jet lag because, well, it's quite a 6 hours difference for you, and it's 5 hours difference for me. So yes, that was already our plan. So when it got to about 5 to 10, I figured the Prosecco's not arriving. It's probably going to come tomorrow. We'll figure things. I'll surprise Mum with it then. So we went to bed. And because we were so exhausted, I think we were really literally just falling asleep at 1 minute past 10. Knock, knock, knock. There's a knock at the door. It's the Prosecco. And Mum had no idea what was happening. She just knows somebody's knocking at the door. I know it's the Prosecco. I leap out of bed with newfound energy. Answered the door, and the lovely lady came in with the trolley and the Prosecco and set it all up while Mum's lying in her bed, very confused about what on earth is going on. Thankfully, she did not open the Prosecco, and we popped it in the fridge and had it a couple of days later. But that wasn't quite the surprise that I was planning, really. But anyway, it was fine.
It was still a surprise.
It was. It was still a surprise. And then on Thursday, we had a couple of lectures to go to, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So
Excellent
what was the
lectures.
first one we went to, Mum?
We went to Find Inspiration in the Everyday.
It was really good. It was two ladies, wasn't it, that were delivering the lecture. They divided it up very well between them, didn't they?
Took certain topics each, about colour and shape.
And texture. And yeah, and they kind of gave us these little packs at the beginning, didn't they, which I thought was such a clever idea. They're like little inspiration packs, and they had like a paint chip, and it had a piece of fabric, a couple of cutouts from magazines, and it had a template in it. What was your template?
Mine was a sweater, a little sweater.
And mine was a sock.
Yes.
Which, if you're watching this and you've watched this before, you'll probably know that I'm more of a sweater or a shawl knitter than a sock knitter, but but I played along. And so basically they asked us to use this little template, the cutout of the garment, and to place it over the top of some of the items in our inspiration pack, and then to use that to create an idea for a new design or a new project.
Yeah.
And it really was very inspiring. I think with pair of us left there feeling like we had lots of ideas and lots of places to look for new ideas.
Yes, they showed how you could use architecture or plants and nature to find inspiration in just what you see in your everyday life.
We really enjoyed it, didn't we?
It was excellent.
And then we had a little break after that. I think it was only about an hour between lectures. And then we had the next one, which was colour and fashion trends for 2025. I think that was Trisha Malcolm
Yes, it
that
was.
gave that. I really enjoyed that too. It was very inspiring, but like in a different way, wasn't it?
Yeah, lots of slides she showed.
She had basically been through like a lot of the fashion shows for spring 2025 and like pulled out any kind of knitwear or anything that could kind of be applied to knitwear fabric or construction, and given some ideas as well for the Pantone colours.
Yeah. And different details that are really in, like zippers.
Lots of zippers, lots of pockets. Always lots of pockets. So we really enjoyed that too, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. It was inspiring.
One of the things that I took from that was, you know, because the Pantone colour of the year is Mocha Mousse, not Mocha Mouse, which is what I keep saying by accident. So, Mocha Mousse. But Mocha Mousse is not really in my colour palette, Mother. However, she gave us a different company that kind of created branding and trend reports, and they had brought out a different colour for 2025, which was called Future Dusk. I love Future Dusk. Future Dusk is absolutely in my colour palette. It was like a very deep purple, wasn't it?
Very deep.
Yeah, like a dark indigo purple. It was completely yummy. So for me, 2025 is the colour of Future Dusk, I've decided.
We leave Mocha Mousse behind.
Yes. And she also showed that Pantone would go to both the London Fashion Week and the New York Fashion Week and pull out the kind of colour palettes from both of those, and then you could compare both as well to see, you know, where the similarities were and the differences, and so it was really enjoyable.
Yes, and they were slightly different.
They were.
The colours
They were.
on either side of the Atlantic.
Yes. So that was wonderful. And then what did we do in the evening on that day?
We went to Little Italy.
We went to Little Italy. So we met up with the lovely Beth McDonald Stone, who was here for VKL from Bermuda. And she's much, much more familiar with New York than we are. So we put ourselves in her capable hands, and she recommended a lovely pizza restaurant called Ruby Rosa in Little Italy. I think it was on Mulberry Street.
Yeah.
And we investigated a variety of different ways to get there, including walking and a taxi, but we ended up on the subway. So, which we managed completely fine, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We were a little bit confused on our way back because we ended up on the wrong platform, but
we fixed it.
we did.
We sorted it out.
We asked questions, and everybody was very kind and pointed us in the right direction, and we made it back to the hotel.
Even though they think our Scottish accents are quite strange.
Yes, well, I don't think we're the ones with the accent, to be completely honest, Mum, but there we go. And we had such a lovely dinner, didn't we?
We did.
We had, it was funny because we all chose the same pizza, so it's kind of a Bianco one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was with ricotta and mozzarella, and it was so good. We really enjoyed it. And then we got back to the hotel. A relatively early evening. We've had quite early evenings altogether though, because we've been tired by the time it gets to about 10 o'clock-ish, 11. We've been pushing it back slightly later, I think, each night, haven't we? But anyway, on the Friday was the first of our classes. Which class did we go to, Mum?
We went to Coco Knit Sweater Workshop Part 1 in the morning and Part 2 in the afternoon.
And that was with Julie Weisenberger. She is a complete delight, isn't she?
Yes,
She was so warm and lovely and knowledgeable. She managed,
Helpful.
and she really managed the different paces of everybody in the class. Because
there was no stress. You
There
didn't
was
have
no-
to try and keep up or anything.
No, and she had brought along quite a few of her samples as well.
That was really nice.
Mm.
We got to look and squish all the
We
sweaters.
And we got to see a couple that we think we might want to cast on, because we discovered that there is a Coco Knits knit along starting next week.
Yes.
So we were thinking we might join that to consolidate our newfound skills. Because the sweater construction method is really quite specific, but it just makes so much sense. It's very logical, isn't it? It's easy to follow once you know what you're about and once you know what you're doing.
And we were making a baby's sweater or cardigan, so we need to learn to translate that into a slightly bigger size.
Yes, we're not going to fit into the samples that we were knitting, were we? No. But the other thing about that class that I really enjoyed was that she taught us some kind of techniques that I had never used before, including picking up stitch method, which was so neat and kind of replicated mattress stitch. But it was just, I mean, all of the finishings were just very well done, weren't they?
Yes.
Kind of gave like a tailored look.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah. So we thoroughly enjoyed that and left feeling very inspired. I think we both have, in fact, I think we might both cast on the same jumper.
Possibly.
There's a lovely jumper that has a beautiful neckline. Is it called the Ruth?
Yes.
Yes. And it's got a lovely sort of kind of neck, kind of almost like a shawl collar, but then kind of crosses over just at the neckline. And it's really nice. We both really loved that one.
We did.
So we might be casting that one on shortly. I think we've both got plenty of yarn to choose from.
I think so.
So that was our Friday day. But in the evening, what did we do in the evening?
We went to the cocktail reception and games night.
Yeah. It was good fun, wasn't it?
It was good fun.
Yeah. One thing we should say, actually, when we arrived and we registered, we were given a goodie bag, weren't we? And we got a couple of skeins of Brooklyn Tweed imbue yarn,
sport weight yarn.
A hat pattern from Brooklyn Tweed, and the new blankets book by Jared Flood, and the Vogue knitting lace book. So we got some quite heavy books at the beginning of. So we've managed to fit them into our cases. We haven't gone to the airport yet, obviously, so we don't know how heavy our cases are. But we'll figure that out then if we have to later. So that'll be fine. But yes, we got that. But we also got a little goodie bag when we went into the cocktail reception too, which was just like a little pouch and our bingo card because there was bingo, and we also got given little tickets for the raffle.
That's right.
Yeah. So there was a lot of raffle prizes.
A lot of raffle prizes.
Not just at the games night, but the following night at the gala reception as well. There was a lot of raffle
really
prizes.
Amazing prizes.
Big prizes. Yeah, it was quite surprising. Surprising. So yes, we went to the games night and we played the bingo and we sat with some really lovely ladies, didn't we?
Yeah,
we
we
had
did.
such a nice evening.
Yes.
And yeah, we played bingo and I won a prize.
You did.
And the way that the prizes worked was, so you had your bingo card and you had all like different words which are related to knitting and crochet. And you had to obviously make your row 5 in either direction. And then if you did that and you shouted bingo, somebody would come and check your sheet to make sure you definitely did have bingo. And then Olga from Gotham Knits would spin the wheel and it would tell you what number your prize would be. And then you would go over and they would give you the prize. So when she did one for me, I ended up with a lovely bag full of purple yarn. Yay! Future dusk. Well, not quite, but close. And I got a really lovely big crochet hook as well, which, now I'm a crocheter. That's
It'll be very handy for you.
It will, very handy. So yes, that was a lovely prize. So I'm off to quite a start here with my yarn acquisitions, and we had actually already popped into we did a little bit of shopping at the marketplace on the Friday before the reception, didn't we?
We did.
So yes, but I'll fill you in on the acquisitions later. But Saturday, what did we do on Saturday?
We had different classes on Saturday.
We did. So what did you do?
I went to Cecilia Campo Chiaro's reversible stitch patterns class, and she is just a delight, and she's such a smart lady.
She is a very, very smart lady.
And she has a new book which she's just sent off to the publishers, which will be coming out in April or May. And it's going to be a type of stitch dictionary following on from her sequence knitting. I can't wait.
Yeah, we've already both decided we're going to buy it, aren't we?
And so we actually knitted little swatches in different patterns from the new book, and it was really interesting.
And she
really
talked you through the process, and
yes.
she's very methodical, isn't she?
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. So
And she passed around lots of the swatches that feature in her new book, and they were just beautiful.
She uses such lovely yarn, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
She did also say she's got quite a lot of patterns coming out too.
She
So
does.
something to keep an eye open
Watch
for.
that space.
We've both signed up for her newsletter, so we're going to keep an eye on that too, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I went to 2 classes with Susanne Sommer, who is So Sue Knits on Instagram, and the first class was the brioche fade class, so kind of exploring how to fade through colours using various different brioche stitch choices. And we were looking at a particular pattern of hers called the Fading Light Cowl, so I've made a good start on that. And then the second class was her brioche textures class, and in that we were learning honeycomb brioche, stockinette brioche, and Purl brioche. That's P-E-A-R-L, not P-U-R-L. Brioche. And we were making a headband with that, although my gauge was completely off, so mine is not going to work for a headband, but it will work as a swatch and to explore the different textures and things. And she was a wonderful teacher too, very patient, very attentive, and just really fascinating. So we had good classes.
Yep.
And then that evening, I've got itchy snitch. That evening we went to the gala dinner, didn't we?
We did.
Mm-hmm. What was our first surprise?
Our first surprise was there was a gigantic bag sitting on our seats, absolutely full of yarn and all kinds of bits and pieces.
It was, wasn't it? So that we weren't anticipating this at all. So this was more to try and fit into the suitcase. So yes, we had a big bag sitting on our chairs, didn't we? And it was full of things, and we had more raffle tickets as well. We didn't win any prizes.
There were the nice round tables with 8 or 10 people.
Yes, yeah. And we sat next to my friend Candace Evans, which was lovely. Had a good blether. We met some new people.
We did.
We had lovely food. The food was delicious.
The food was really nice.
And they were doing the raffle kind of periodically throughout, and there were some really, really big prizes, some very heavy prizes, which we were kind of a little bit in the nerves over, actually.
What a relief we didn't win.
It's like, this is going to cost a lot, and extra luggage. And in fact, one of the grand prizes was 3 sweater quantities of Brooklyn tweed yarn. And when they brought it out, it was roughly the same size as our suitcase. So we would have had to have bought a second suitcase from round the corner. And another one of the prizes was an iPad. That would have fitted in much more comfortably into the suitcase. But we didn't win that. And then we had a keynote talk by Jared Flood, and he was introduced by Gudrun Johnson, and she did such a lovely warm intro, didn't she?
Did.
It was really nice. And then Jared spoke for about an hour, and it was really kind of his personal story of the last 20 years of Brooklyn Tweed. So he spoke really well, didn't he?
He did. It was really engaging and quite moving.
It was moving, yeah.
Talk.
Very warm, very honest, but also very inspiring. He's a very
and
creative
lots of slides
person
as well.
Yeah. So we really enjoyed that. And then that was followed up with a Brooklyn Tweed fashion show as well. So we got to see some lovely designs, didn't we?
Yes, and they've had over 800 designs.
800 patterns released, yeah. And what did he say? That he had been responsible for?
A third of them, I think.
A third of them. Yeah. That's incredible. So that was really wonderful too, wasn't it? So we had a really nice evening.
We did.
Good fun. Kind of exceeded all our we didn't really have any expectations because we didn't know what to expect. But it was really, really, really good fun. And then the next day was shopping day. So that was Sunday, and the marketplace was open from, was it 10 till 2:30, I think?
I think so, yeah.
So because we've been attending so many of the classes and events and things, we hadn't really kind of explored the full marketplace area, had we?
No.
So we did that properly on Sunday, and we've got some lovely yarns and things, and we explored all the nice colours and textures.
We saw some lovely sweater patterns and shawl patterns.
Beautiful samples.
Samples,
yeah, absolutely. So we were taking notes, weren't we, as we went round, and having lots of lovely conversations. And really, one of the lovely things I think about coming to a yarn festival that is outside of the country that we would usually go to yarn festivals in is that we encounter makers and fibres that we don't really get back home. So that was really interesting too. Like Cormo. Cormo's not something that we get.
No.
Targhi's also not something that we really get very much of, and Rambouillet is also not a common fibre in the UK certainly. So that was really interesting and lovely too. And then we finished off with our lecture.
A lecture by Cecilia.
Cecilia.
Because Amy hadn't heard her speak.
So again, she showed her beautiful samples, her swatches, talked about her process, her new book, her stitch dictionary obsession. And I mean, she's really, not surprisingly, because I think this is absolutely the person that she is, but she has done a really deep dive into the form and structure of a stitch dictionary, and then really determined what she wanted for her own stitch dictionary, and then really done an enormous amount of work to pull this one together. So, and she did say too, it's going to be in a paperback.
Yes.
So it's not going to be quite so heavy as her other two.
Yes, but with
books.
a stitched binding so that it will open completely flat.
Very well thought through. Like I said, not really a surprise.
No.
And so that took us to Sunday evening. And so we had dinner over at Junior's, which is just across the way from our hotel. And we had some New York cheesecake, which was very yummy.
When it was snowing slightly outside.
We watched the snow, didn't we? Because kind of the weather closed in really over that evening. However, this morning, I think it is very, very cold. We have not yet ventured out. But it's blue sky, there's not a cloud in the sky, there's a light dusting of snow.
Very light dusting. Yeah.
And however, we have just found out that our flight has been pushed back by a couple of hours, so we've had to kind of make some alternative connection arrangements. But yes, that piece is ongoing. But by the time you see this, we will be home safe and sound. But yes, it's been a lovely time, hasn't it?
It's been fabulous. Really
Would you come
fabulous.
back, Mum?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I love the learning bit of it.
Yeah, was that your favourite thing, was all the classes?
Yeah,
and
yes it was. It was, I really enjoyed those. And if not, although I've reached this old age that I'm at now, I've never been to a knitting class before.
That's right, Julie Weisenberger's was your
class.
first knitting class.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe not the last one.
Maybe not.
So your favourite thing, you think, was doing all of the
Absolutely.
classes. But we were discussing words for the year, and we were saying that one of Mum's intentions really for this year is to kind of do more off-piste knitting.
Or improvising.
Yeah, can't even say it. Improvisation is the name of the game for this year. And so I think a lot of what we encountered was a lot of inspiration for that improvisation.
Yes, that's right. So it started off well.
Yes. We've got lots of ideas and lots of different things that we want to try, and so maybe lots of creative knitting coming your way and coming ours too, I think. Okay, well, we're going to go because we have to check out soon and figure out what we're going to do for the next couple of hours before we have to go and get our plane. But yes, this has been a complete joy and a pleasure, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing me.
You're welcome.
So that was our experience, and we just had, as you've heard, such the most marvellous time. And I think one of the things that really marked out our experience at Vogue was the classes. As you've heard, we went to quite a few classes, some together, some individually, and we went to some lectures as well. And one of the things I was really thinking about after having gone to these lectures and these classes is that I don't want to let that learning slip away. I think it's very easy when we attend a knitting festival and knitting classes to allow the experience to kind of wash over us and kind of get all caught up in the fun of it and the excitement of it and just receive all this amazing inspiration. But then what do we do on the other side of that? And so I wanted to share with you kind of what I've been doing on the other side of that, because I really wanted to integrate the learning that I had received. And so I want to share with you the finished objects from my classes. So the first class, as you've heard, was the Julie Weisenberger Coco Knits Sweater Method workshop. And in it we were applying the sweater method, and it's a construction method which kind of begins at the back neck and allows you to kind of construct a shoulder and before then moving into a worksheet section of it in order to manage your increases. And so we were working through that over the course of a whole day. So there was two parts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and we were applying it to a baby cardigan. So I worked with drops. In fact, I've got it here. This is one of my many cocoon tree bags that you will see on this episode. But I will show you. I really didn't have very much left, actually. There we go. This is what I've got left of my drops Paris. And I think it was in the colourway, is it Dusty Pink? Dusty Pink? I'm not quite sure. It's only going to have a number on this because unfortunately, colour 63. So it's a lovely shade. So I was working with that, and when I got home, I finished the cardigan. Isn't it so pretty? Now, I realised as I'm doing this, I've actually completely forgotten the name of the cardigan. So I'm going to pop that up here so that you can see. But what I really want to show you is how incredibly beautiful this shoulder construction is. So like I said, we begin along this back edge and we kind of build this section here. And then we're picking up our stitches and building out from that piece to create this incredibly well-tailored knit. Now, alongside that, Julie also introduced us to some techniques for picking up stitches and for increases that were new to me and were just so incredibly neat. Like this is, for example, some of that picked up edge, and isn't that just so lovely? I'm just really, really impressed with it. And then all of these lovely increases. And while, sometimes you get a pattern that tells you to you know, increase on the neck edge so many times over so many rows, and at the same time do, you know, increase on every row on the armhole edge, and etc, etc. And it all becomes very confusing. And then even worse than that is when you get to do the other side, and it goes repeat in reverse for the other side, and you're like, oh no. Well, this kind of method allows you kind of the sophistication, I suppose, of these various different increase rates, but lays it out in a way that is very easy to understand, so that you don't get too lost. This particular jumper is just so sweet, isn't it? And then I've picked up all my stitches here, again using that method that Julie taught us, and then knitting a little garter neckband. But it's all just so neat. I'm so pleased with it. And then this very simple but very effective lace. So there we go. That's what I completed when I got home. And then to further solidify that, and now we're coming to what I'm wearing, I decided that I wanted to participate in the knit-along that Coco Knits and Julie are launching on the 31st of January. Now, my intention is to cast on for the Ruth. We saw one of the samples there and at the class, and it was just amazing, and both Mum and I completely loved it. And so I'm going to cast that on for the knit-along. But before then, I knew I wanted to record, and so I thought, well, maybe I could explore applying the same method, but using a different pattern. So the pattern that I chose was the Amy, so that was very appropriate. And the yarn that I've used is the yarn that I won in the bingo, which you've already heard about now. So it is the most glorious alpaca by Mirasol, and it is so incredibly soft. In fact, I think I have a little bit of it left. There we go. That's all I've got left of 4 skeins. It's chunky, as you can see. Very, very soft. So I'm not sure how this is going to hold up, but for right now it's completely glorious, so I'm just going with that. So yes, this is the Amy cardigan by Julie Weisenberger, and what I want to show you is this construction. Can you see this? Try and make sure I'm in the light as best I can, but can you see how that sleeve has kind of constructed like a 3D shape which just sits on the shoulder? I don't think I have ever knitted anything, and look at this, I don't think I've ever knitted anything that has fitted my shoulders quite so beautifully. Now I have slopey shoulders, as I've told you before. I don't have particularly square shoulders or broad shoulders. I have quite sort of, well, yeah, slopey shoulders. And so quite often I find that shoulder constructions don't really sit all that well. I always feel like I'm kind of making do. With this, I don't feel like I'm making do at all. I feel like this was absolutely constructed to fit my shoulder. So I think that's incredible. And then it was very easy as well to just add a couple of extra increases in to kind of give me a little bit more fabric across the bust, which I needed. and yeah, I had to modify the sleeves a little bit. I had a bit of a time with the sleeves. The pattern has you, what does it ask you to do? I think it is knit 1 row. Oh, I think it's to purl 1 row in the round and then cast off purl-wise using the stretchy bind off. But when I did that, the whole sleeve really flared. And while, I mean, it's absolutely a beautiful look, but I was really concerned that actually it was going to start catching on everything and pulling. And that's not really what I wanted. So I took that back. And basically what I've done is 3 rows, and this is knitted on a size 12 needle which again is slightly smaller than the needle recommended in the pattern, but that was the only one I had. I don't have a 12 point, I think it was a 12.5 or 12.75, and I only had a 12. So sometimes we just make do with what we have. So I knitted this in a 12, and then I popped down to a size 6 circular needle here and knitted 3 rows and then cast off just a regular cast off, and that's kind of created a slight bell, I suppose, but I'm so pleased. I think the sleeves worked out really, really neatly. I've also knitted the body of the cardigan a little longer, so I will stand up to show you. And I've got a garter stitch border here, which is a bit improvised too, before casting off. And yeah, you'll see that I have threaded a ribbon. It's pulling a little bit here, so maybe I'll need to find a different place to thread that through, but I've just threaded a ribbon, a silk ribbon, through there in order to hold it together at the front rather than putting buttons in it. So I'm incredibly pleased with this, and it was really fun to kind of go through the process again. I actually did it while we were watching a new TV show, new to us, not new for anybody else, but we were watching The Rig on Amazon, which is actually a TV series which was filmed here in Leith, this part of Edinburgh that I live in. There are some film studios, and yeah, it was filmed during part of the sort of the pandemic, coming out of lockdown, and my son actually was managing a food truck at that point that was sent out to do some of the catering. So he met the crew and the cast, which was rather fun, and made them lovely vegan food. And yeah, so we were watching that, and it was really very involving. So the fact that I did actually manage to, cast it on, figure out the shoulder construction and the construction up here at the yoke, and then manage to plot out all my numbers on the worksheet and follow them, I was quite impressed with myself. So so this bodes well for starting the knit along with Julie on the 31st, and as I said, I'm going to be casting on the Ruth, and I'll just show you the yarn that I'm going to. Oh, here it is. This is a beautiful bag by Pajauta Makes, which was a gift for me from Alexandra for my birthday a couple of years ago, and I took it with me because it was a wonderful size bag. And it's not in there. Well, where did I? Oh, I put it in this bag, which my auntie gave to me. This is a cocoon tree bag. She sent me and Mum these beautiful bags, plus notions purses to match. And I've popped my yarn in here. Now, if I can remember what my yarn is, that would be, oh, there you go. Excellent. So it's this very, very dark purple. Can you see that? It's called Purple Velvet. It is a sport weight alpaca, and it's from Shenandoah Fibre, shenandoahfibre.com. It's just so soft. It is just so soft. My yarn is from one particular alpaca, so again, it's the magic, not just of single flock or single breed. First of all, I suppose we have single breed yarn blends, and then we have a single flock, and then we have single fleece, and this is single fleece. So this alpaca has a very dark fleece, and they've dyed this glorious shade of purple over the top, which has kind of created this real sort of rich dark indigo shade. So I have 5 skeins of this, which gives me 1,000 meters, which I think will just be enough to knit the Ruth. So that's one of my plans. And again, this is just how I am integrating the teaching that I received in the classes, so that I don't forget it and that it becomes becomes another part of my toolkit. So the next thing I want to share with you then is the finished object from my next class, which was with Susanne Sommer, and that was a class all about brioche fade, and we were working with her pattern called the Fading Light Cowl. Now this is where this bag comes in because it has the colours that I took with me for my Fading Light Cowl. Now these, we were told to choose some DK weight yarn, so I went for Cascade 220 Superwash, and I picked it up from Wool Warehouse before I left. I took quite a long time kind of doing screenshots of different colours and then putting them into like a photo collage app in order to see if they would fade from one to another. It took me quite a long time to figure out exactly what colours I wanted, but I got there in the end. And so these are the colours that I chose. This is what I have left, incidentally. And so I absolutely would have worked from stash yarn if I had a fade available to me in my stash, but I really didn't think that I did. And so I bought these just before going. And the class was wonderful. Susanne Sommer was so warm, and she was so helpful and really took her time to go around everybody in the class and make sure that we were all following and that we weren't having any difficulties. And we were basically, here you go, here's the finished object. This is the Fading Light Cowl. So basically we were exploring, how to fade colours, how to fade a palette through brioche. So basically we were starting with, like here you can see single coloured brioche, and then moving into two coloured brioche, and then syncopating that brioche. And basically what that means is the colour that's at the front goes to the back, and the colour that was at the back comes to the front. And so your eye perceives the colour differently because of the colour dominance of the brioche. And then from there, moving into single colour, two colour, and then syncopated, and moving through your fade in that way. So it was really very clever, and it's finished off. You start with a provisional cast on, and then we're adding the I-cord on afterwards. I had a little bit of difficulty with my I-cord at the end because I cast it off using the same needle that I'd knitted the rest of the cowl in, and unfortunately that was far too tight, so then I had to pull it all back and redo it again, which was a bit annoying. But there we go. But I'm pleased with how it's worked out now, and this is washed and blocked. And there we go, this is my Fading Light cowl. How pretty is that? So it was so fun. I mean, she showed us other methods for fading colours, including choosing like a dominant colour to hold as your main colour, and then fading through contrast colours on the wrong side of your brioche. And yes, she showed us various different techniques, but this is the one that we kind of followed through into the pattern, and it really gave us an opportunity to explore that single coloured with that with the two colour and with the syncopation. So that was great, and it kind of really confirmed, I think, the best ways in which you can fade through your brioche. And obviously you can now bring that, or I can now bring that to other brioche projects which aren't necessarily written as fades, but you can bring that fading technique with you. So there you go, that's the Fading Light Cowl by Susanne Sommer. However, I did have a lot of yarn left, and so I decided when I got home that I would use that yarn to create a complementary headband. Now this is the headband that we began in the second class of the of the Saturday, which was a brioche textures class. And I had brought along different yarn for that I'd brought from my stash, but actually my yarn was far too thick for the overall project. So when I got home, I cast on a new headband using these colours, so it would go with my lovely cowl. And yes, so I've now finished that and I've cast it off, and I think it's super cute. So I'm gonna share that with you now. So the class basically took us through. So we started with a little bit of straightforward brioche, 2-colour ribbed brioche, and then we moved into 1-colour honeycomb brioche, then into 2-colour honeycomb brioche, into brioche stockinette, 1-colour pearl brioche, and 2-colour pearl brioche. So basically, in the headband, you're working through these different textures. It's so much fun. So the honeycomb brioche is probably the most challenging, because you're breaking some of the cardinal rules about brioche, which are that we always knit the stitch with its shawl, with its yarn over. And in honeycomb brioche, you don't do that. And so it takes a little bit of getting your head round. But once you do, that's a lot of fun. And I do really love the texture that creates. I'm going to be on the lookout, I think, for some honeycomb brioche projects in the near future. The stockinette brioche, compared with the honeycomb, was a breeze. It was a walk in the park. And then we moved on to the pearl brioche, and that is P-E-A-R-L, not P-U-R-L. And yeah, we did the 1-colour, and then we did the 2-colour, and again, it's so effective. And actually, once you understand the principle of it and the technique, it's relatively easy to get your head around. So the pattern has you knit this band with all of these different lovely textures, and then it has you knit another band in stockinette brioche. So as you can see, I've used these 2 colours here for my brioche texture side, and I've used these 2 colours here, which are in the cowl, also for the brioche stockinette band. So then you knit that and block them out so that they are even, and then after that you are seaming with an I-cord, which I had also never done before, but look how incredibly neat that is. I think that's one of the big things I'm actually taking away from all of these classes, is that I feel like I've been given like a whole range of new techniques to, and they're not rocket science. They're not incredibly difficult, but once you've mastered them, I really think that they bring these kind of beautiful finishings to your projects. And then you're creating your little twist in your headband when you're finished, and I will show you what it looks like on. We've been going out, my husband and I, and sometimes with our kids, with our boys, we've been going out to see these old movies on Sunday mornings at the Cameo. They're doing a range of lovely old movies, and they're actually being very well attended, which is lovely to see. But we saw Leave Her to Heaven on last Sunday with Jean Tierney and Vincent Price, which was it was really, really good. We enjoyed it a lot. It was one of the early Technicolor movies, and it was filmed in 1945. And so when I finished my headband the other night there and I tried it on, Frank said, "Oh, you look just like you've stepped out of one of those 1940s movies." So, which I rather love. So I'm really pleased with it. I think it's super cute. Not only that, it's because the double fabric. It feels super cozy on my ears. Although it's fine to cover this ear completely. I do need to keep this one slightly uncovered so I can hear what you're saying. But yeah, I'm so pleased with that. So, and look how well these all match together. Considering I didn't buy this, that I won this in the bingo. The bingo was sponsored by Go Sadie, And Olga of Gotham Knits, she would like spin a wheel and it would come up with a number and it would tell you what your bingo prize was going to be. So it was completely by chance that I won this this colour of card, this colour of yarn, this colour of cardigan, this colour of yarn that I've knitted the cardigan with, and yet it goes so well with the yarn that I had already purchased to do my brioche projects with. So so I'm really pleased. So there we go, that's the brioche textures. This is the Textured Twist Headband by Susanne Sommer. This is the Fading Light Cowl by Susanne Sommer. And this is the Amy Cardigan by Julie Weisenberger. So those are my finished objects since I got home. I'm realising I should probably share with you some of the finished objects that I have before I went. So let me get those out. And maybe take the headband and this off because it's really, I'm getting really warm. So there we go. Before I went, I actually finished the very long brioche scarf that I cast on. I think I cast it on last January, February, and decided when I was kind of reviewing what was still on my needles at the end of the year, what was going to, what was going to be finished, what needed to be let go of. And I decided that this scarf absolutely needed to continue. So this is, and I had envisioned that this would be a new design. This is what I'm calling the Fairy. Fairy is an old Scots word for friend. And what I loved about it was that all of the colours in the Advent got to play with each other. They got to be friends. So yes. The problem is, however, perhaps you're getting a sense of it here. The problem is for 24 skeins, this is all 24 skeins. And it is utterly glorious. But it is very, very, very long. It is about 9.5 feet, which is around about 3 meters. Which is, I mean, I know long scarves are in, but this is long. I will show you the way that I have been wearing it to kind of make it more manageable. So I'm folding it in half to kind of create a loop here, and then pulling that loop so it's kind of sitting up towards here. And then I'm passing the rest of the scarf through. You really get a sense of how absolutely massive this is. And then pulling these round. So it's kind of creating this big sort of bundle of brioche. I have to say it's been super, super cozy, and I have worn it quite a lot, even although it is absolutely massive. So if I am going to release this as a pattern, it needs work because it can't be released as a almost 10-foot scarf. I feel ridiculous even saying this. Oh, I should say that the yarn is River Knits. Is 2 of their mini sets. One is, I think, their bright rainbow, and the other, or their jewel rainbow, and the other is their muted or dusky rainbow. So it's 2 rainbow sets that have been worked together, and basically I just had like a bag and I had them all wound up, and I just kind of pulled them at random. So I didn't kind of make a point of choosing which colours. But there you go. It actually goes quite well with this cardigan. But then it's got so many colours and it actually goes with everything. But yes, like I said, I'm going to have to figure this out because this isn't going to work as it is. But I think the principles of it and I think the construction of it is really effective. So I'm going to sit and figure that piece out, and maybe it will be available later on this year. I do have a sense of what I need to do with it in order to get it to work, but that would mean that it isn't ultimately an Advent pattern. But yes, maybe I'll release a maybe it'll come with instructions for how to adapt it for the Advent pattern. But yes, I think the main pattern would probably need to be significantly shorter. So there you go, that's a fairy scarf. And now I've wrapped myself up in it. I'm about to expire and I'm going to have to take it off. So that was one thing that I finished. I decided not to take it with me because it didn't quite fit my colour palette that I was planning on, and also it's massive, so perhaps not the most travel friendly object. The other thing that I knitted was my Beast beret. Now I knitted this specifically, let me show you, to go with my amazing Fantastitch. I had a bit of a problem with this though. So I've knitted it in, let me find the back, there it is. I knitted this in Ginger Twist Studios' new base, which is their Whipped DK base, which is a baby alpaca, more alpaca. And I knitted the larger size because it's not really two sizes, it's two yarn weights are included in the pattern, and so I went for the DK rather than the Sport. And actually when I finished it, it was far too big and I was so disappointed. So I left it overnight, and kind of, it's one of those things that you ponder while you're falling asleep. And I decided that in the morning I was going to felt it. Now I've never really felted anything on purpose. I have felted things not on purpose, but with this I filled my sink with hot water. I had my wool soap, which I have a solid block of wool soap, which I used, and I just kind of really vigorously gave it a good rub in the hot water, and slowly but surely the fabric began to felt. Can you see that? And it became smaller and smaller until I thought, actually that looks like it's going to work. And so at that point I put it on a plate to block it into the shape that I wanted, and let it dry. And then when I tried it on, it was still a little bit too big, and I was like, so like the top part wasn't too big, but this bit was too big. So then I thought, well, should I take it back? Well, that's not going to be very easy, seeing as you felted it, Amy. So so instead what I decided to do was get some of this yarn here, of which I still had a little bit left over, and I went around the edging and crocheted a chain. Can you see this crochet chain? The whole way round. So that's on the inside. On the outside, it just looks like that. Looks like I think a row of running stitch. So once I got all the way round, I found that actually that was just what it needed. It needed a little bit of stability and a little bit of strengthening, and I completely love it. It's very eye-catching because it is, well, the colour is called Brighter Than Barbie, so that will give you an idea. But I really like the structure that the felting has given it. I think I now want to felt all my berries. I would absolutely buy more of the Whipped DK and felt it on purpose, because this fabric is phenomenal. I just love it. The other thing that I think I would do though is I would, with the Beast pattern, you do kind of, it's either make one lefts or make one rights, I can't remember, for your increases, to kind of create that pattern. So you're starting with your little I-cord, which is also felted and looks much better than it did before. So all in all, I'm just really pleased. But I think next time, because I think this is, my God, this might be the 4th or the 5th Beast that I've knitted, but this is the first one that I've felted, and I think what I might do is use the increase method from the Coco Knits workshop, so that I wouldn't end up with the holes, and it would be a bit of a neater increase for the shaping of the berry. But let me find the back of it again. There we go. Is that it? No, that's not it. There we go. But I'm really pleased with it. I think it's super cute, and it went beautifully with my lovely shawl. Just show you. And yeah, so I was really pleased. I think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it. I already have had a lot of wear out of it. So, and I actually have a lipstick exact same colour. So these things are important. So that was my Beast Beast adventure, which yeah, was a bit of a rescue mission, but ultimately, I think it was a big success. So there we go, my felted Beast. And then the last finished object to show you, I know, like, last finished object to show you, but I might take this off because I'm actually so warm. You can see how I've kind of just threaded my my ribbon through that because I didn't want to yeah, I didn't want to sew the ribbon on or cut the ribbon because it's a very lovely silk ribbon, but yeah, that's how I attached that. But this is my last finished object, and I actually knitted this on the plain. Let me see where the back of it is. It's this way, and I finished it while I was in New York. This is the Getting Warmer cowl, kind of more of like a shrug shape, I think. I have used my Mohair, my magic Mohair, from Adele in South Africa, Adele Creations. I think that's what it's called. Don't think I have. Do I have that? No, not there. Not there. No, I didn't bring the bag through. But I'll pop that information, all the information actually, if you're looking for anything, like links to anything, you'll find in the description box below, and then you'll find more detailed information with images over on my Patreon, which is a page that's actually free to access for everybody. So, but yes, so we're starting from the bottom here. You've got some basic 2x2, and then you're moving into garter, which garter in the round is basically you're knitting one row and then you're purling the next. The yarn that I've used is JC Rennie DK Super Soft in the colourway Charcoal, and I've held that the whole way through. And then basically I've just taken some of the mohair from the pack that I had, and started striping it in, and I did that pretty randomly, and you'll see that there's some kind of more art yarn, I suppose, so because I've got some ribbons in here, there's some beads, you can see them in there, and then I've finished it off with this kind of thick and thin, like kind of loosely spun yarn, which I really like, which is kind of almost created like a stand-up collar on it. It's very warm, it's quite thick. I knitted it on a needle smaller than the one suggested, again because I didn't have the other one. Oh no, I did have the one suggested, but it was a metal needle and I didn't want to take the metal needle on the plain. My only wooden needle that was closest to the size was a smaller one, and so it's created a slightly more dense fabric, but actually now it's washed and blocked now that I'm home. It's actually opened up quite a bit, so it feels a little bit more comfortable to wear, not quite so dense. This is the Getting Warmer cowl by Melissa Clulo, and it's available, I think, through the Espace Tricot collection on Ravelry. I think I got it when it was free. I am not sure if it's still free or not, because I know a lot of the Espace Tricot patterns are now paid for patterns. But it was a lovely pattern, and it's one I've actually knitted many of these before. So I knitted one for my mum and each of my aunties. I've knitted I think a few more other than that, so maybe this is like the 6th one that I've knitted. And for me, it just kind of like the beautiful shrugs that Jackie Rose has designed. They just feel like you're being hugged. And I think that's a really lovely gift for somebody, you know, but I think it's also a lovely experience we can give to ourselves when we are perhaps traveling or when we're out in the world or doing our, living our life, doing our thing, it's nice to do it with a hug. So that is my Getting Warmer cowl, and like I said, I finished that while I was over in the States. That, my loves, is all of my finished objects, and you've already heard about one of my plans, which is the casting on of the Ruth by Julie Weisenberger for the cowl on the 31st. I have one other whip and one other piece that I'm about to cast on, so let me share those with you, and then after that I'm going to show you my acquisitions. And so it's not all acquisitions actually, because some of it is what I was given, because we were at VKL on the Big Apple package, which meant that we went to a lot of the evening events. We've told you all this already, including the gala and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you like everything that I received from that package, from the registration goodie bag to the gala dinner swag bag. But let me show you first what I've cast on. And actually I bought this yarn at VKL. The wonderful Freya Fibres was there. I love Freya Fibres. I've knitted a beautiful, I had knitted a Seriously Holy, I think, in their yarn before. This yarn here, what is it called? Let me get the label out. It is a shawl ball. Oh, that's handy. This is the label here. And it's in the colourway Whisper. What did we get? We get 393 meters for 100 grams, and it's single ply and it's merino. And this is the ball that I've got left, so you can see it's kind of going down to this beautiful sort of creamy vanilla shade, I suppose. And at the moment I'm kind of working through this sort of violet into pink, and then the pink is going to fade into this lovely creamy colour in the centre. Let me show you what colours we've moved through so far. We started with this kind of jade green, kind of moving into more kind of like a smoky blue, and then into this violet. So as you can see, this is a shawl. I cast this on in the last lecture of VKL that we went to, which was with Cecilia Campochiaro, and I just needed something really, really easy to knit, and something that would work for the plain. So I bought the shawl ball, and I bought a set of wooden needles from Clover. These are 4mm ones, US size 6, and I just cast on. And basically I'm knitting an asymmetric triangle in garter stitch. I am slipping my stitches at the edges, so you can see it kind of creates this nice edge. I'm knitting front and back to kind of create my my increase, and my plan is to use up the whole ball to create like this large asymmetric triangle, and then I'm going to add a border. Now the border that I was just thinking about what I wanted to do, because I've got quite a few options, but I was thinking what would be lovely is if I used this yarn here. Now, as you can see, this is all being kept in this, and this is the yarn that I'm going to use, and I've got this little lovely star stitch marker, all of which were gifts from my friend Alexandra from my birthday last November. So yes, I was thinking, wouldn't it be lovely to include this beautiful yarn here? Now this is called A Window to the Light, and it's 70% kid mohair, 30% silk, and it's by a company called Purl and Poem, and it's a botanical colour, hand dyed by Open Studio 79. So it's it's lace weight 420 meters. Isn't that just beautiful? And it's, if you look at the colour in the centre of the ball, I think it's actually perfect. So I need to have a bit of a think about what kind of knitted on or crocheted on, because that's also an option. border that I want to add to this. But this is just kind of a, I suppose it's a design in progress. Whether it ever actually makes its way out into the world or whether it's just for me, I don't know. But I thought, how fun, if you've got one of these gradient balls, or you've got a skein, like a special skein, like that one souvenir skein, and you want to use up all of it, I wanted to kind of create a way of using up the whole skein. And so that's what this is. This is kind of a current experiment. So that's what I'm knitting on right now. That's like my active whip. But the next one is kind of my most epic. Now this is being held in, this is also a cocoon tree bag, but you won't find this one on the Cocoon Tree website because this is very, very special fabric. At Christmas time, I received this beautiful bag, and this tartan is actually tartan that my granddad gave to my grandma, and my grandma has asked my auntie, who is the creatrix behind the Cocoon Tree, if she would make bags for all of the women in the family, and this is mine. So it's an incredibly special gift. There were tears. Look at the inside as well. And if I open it a little bit further, maybe you will see some of what's inside. So this is an incredibly lovely project. I've been desperate to cast it on. I received it for my birthday from my parents last November, and November, December and January are very busy months for me because that's when I have the My Word Goddess readings, and so there's a huge amount of prep that goes on, and then there's the launch, and then there's the delivery and the doing of the readings. So it's just, and then of course there's Christmas, which is so yes, it's just an incredibly busy time. So it was not the time to cast on the collar, which is what this kit is. But now it is. So let me show you. This is the collar. This is the Lapwing collar by Alice Starmore. That's the back. And I went on to Alice Starmore's website, which is Virtual Yarns, and I chose colours. So I didn't go for one of the kits that already had like a chosen palette. I chose my own. And again, that took me quite a long time, and I did what I said I did with the fade, which was I took screenshots of most of the colours actually that they offer in the yarn weight that was appropriate for the collar. And then I also took screenshots of the colours of their palettes to put them together to see exactly, you know, what kind of contrast there needed to be, what colours would complement each other, you know, whether, you know, because you are selecting a main colour and 5 contrast colours. So so yes, I found that quite helpful. Maybe this is something which would help you actually. If you're putting together a colour palette for a design and you don't want to use the colour palette that they have used, you can still you know, take these little screenshots of each of the colours that they have used in the order that they've used them, and then use that to inform your own choices. So does this need to be high contrast or low contrast? Does this section need to be a fade? Could this colour needs to be a pop? What could that be? So, you know, in that way I kind of built my own palette. So let me show you the palette. This is my main colour here. It's called Erica. This is my first contrast, which is Red Rattle. This is all in Alice Starmore's 2-ply Hebridean, I think it's called. And then I've got 4 colours which are part of a fade. Now let me see if I can hold these. I don't have a great track record of this, so so this is Limpet, this is Selkie, this is Kaluna, and this is Kitty Week. Can you see these colours? Look at because these are heathered, the variation in the yarn is just so beautiful. You see that? This is one of my favourites. This is Selkie and Limpet. So these colours, let me show you what they're going to be. So the main colour is actually all of these long feathers here, which in this this colour palette are done in the shade Kaluna. You see that? So that's your main colour. Your first contrast colour is actually, see this row of feathers here and the neckband, the main colour of the neckband, that's your contrast colour. And for me, that's Red Rattle. And then for these feathers, they're almost like a fade with a pop. And so that's where I have these 3 colours. So that's like my fade. Ooh. That was inevitable. And this is my pop. So this is actually a video class. So I have watched the first 2 sections of the video class. There it is. A runaway limpet. Funnily enough, they don't run that fast. Being shellfish. So I've watched the first couple of sections and I have done some swatching. Now, I have never knitted an Alice Starmore pattern before. Completely new designer to me. I'm saying completely new. I've been aware of her for many, many years. Always as somebody who does these incredible complex stranded colour work. But her, I don't know, her design mind is just phenomenal. She is actually just one of the most exquisite designers who does like full costumes and things. I have the book Glamoury, which I've yet to knit anything from, but again, I have a plan for later this year. But this is going to be my first Alice Starmore. So I decided that I really better knit a tension swatch. Now, I do knit swatches, she says. I don't knit them all the time. So to be completely honest, but because I have never knitted an Alice Starmore, I don't know what her tension is like. So I thought I really better knit this, particularly since it's in such precious yarn. Also, these pieces of the collar are constructed separately, so you're breaking your yarn a lot. So this is not something that you're going to be able to rip back and redo if you don't get the gauge right the first time round. So I thought it was really best to kind of put the effort in at the beginning and make sure I've got the prep in place before casting on. So that's what I was doing last night. So the instructions say to cast on with size 4mm needles. So this is my 4mm needle tension swatch. Now I have not washed and blocked my tension swatches, which I would normally do, but in the video she tells you not to do that, and actually when you get a little bit later on in the video she doesn't actually wet block some of the feathers, so I suppose that makes sense. But yes, so this is my 4, and I did not get gauge. So I went down a needle size. I thought this might be interesting for you to see kind of the difference between a 4mm, so US size 6, and a 3.75mm. Would that be a US 5? I don't know. I'm not very great with the conversions between metric and US sizing. This also, unfortunately, did not make the grade. It was still slightly too big. And so I went down another yarn. So this top one here is 3.5. Let me see. So you can see there. Can you see this? I think you can see that my stitches in that lower swatch are quite a bit smaller than the ones above. So I finally hit gauge with a 3.5mm needle. But then you also have to do another gauge swatch And that's for, because that top one there is for the tension with the feathers. The bottom one is for the neckband. And the neckband said to do 3.25. Well, I've only just hit gauge at 3.5 for the feathers. So I was thinking 3.25 is not going to cut it here. There's no way I'm going to hit gauge. So instead, I figured that, well, I had to drop down 2 needle sizes to get gauge for the feathers. I will drop down 2 needle sizes and see if I can get gauge for the collar. So that lower one there is the gauge swatch at 2.75 millimeters. So I just thought I would pin it out and share it with you so that you could see the difference between the size between a 4 millimeter, 3.75, 3.5 and 2.75 gauge swatches. It's quite distinct. And you'll also notice that these are half the size of these ones. Now, I did get the beginner kit for the collar, and that's because for not very much more money, you do get more yarn. And so I did have a bit of extra yarn, but I'm going to hold on to these swatches in case I need to unravel them. I don't think I will. I think I will have plenty. But when I'd already moved through these 2 larger than I would normally do gauge swatches because I was being a good knitter, I decided I didn't want to do the same for these ones here. But these are actually the ones that I got gauge in. So this will be the gauge for the feather, and this will be the gauge for the neckband. You can see there's quite a big difference, even just in the size of them, that this is quite a bit shorter than the other. So there we go. I thought that might be interesting for you to see. So I've now done my prep. I can now cast on my first feather. And this is going to be a longer project, I would imagine. I've already watched one section of the class where she shows you how to knit the feathers. I'm obviously not going to give all of that away because it's absolutely part of the pattern and part of her genius, because it's not complicated, but it's so clever. It's so clever. I'm honestly delighted with it. So I'm quite excited to cast on and start doing these feathers. She has quite an involved way of blocking the feathers. Some of them are wet block, and some of them are not. But there is going to be a lot of blocking involved. So I think I'm gonna have to do that as I go along, just to make sure that I don't end up in a big muddle actually at the end of it. So so that's my plan. So that's what's being cast on now. So I'm casting on the Ruth, I'm casting on the lapwing collar, and I'm continuing to work on this beautiful Freya gradient shawl. So that's my whips. So that you've had all the finished objects, all the whips. You've had the VKL roundup. What you haven't had is the acquisitions. So there are a few. I didn't go wild, but I did. Obviously, it was like a yarn festival, so I did buy some things. So let me show you what I bought first. And what I'll maybe just preface this by saying that Mum and I really enjoyed actually the marketplace. It had lots of stalls of yarn and companies that we had never seen before. We're encountering a lot of these companies and their yarns for the first time, and it was spread out over 2 floors, and that didn't feel too overwhelming, so it felt like you could have a good wander around and then still find your way back to the thing that you wanted, which I found a bit problematic at Rhinebeck. I felt very overwhelmed with the choice at Rhinebeck, and I found VKL was a little bit easier to manage. I know some have been saying that that the marketplace used to be a lot better, but when you've never been to it before, you don't have anything to compare it to. All I can say is that we really enjoyed it, and we got some really lovely yarns to bring home with us, and we're looking forward to knitting with them over the course of this year. So this is the first yarn. Now, I got this on the Friday evening before the cocktail games event. And I had already actually said that I wasn't going to buy any yarn that evening. I was going to leave it all until the Sunday. But yes, I couldn't resist. So can you blame me? It was like calling my name. I spotted it from across the floor. It is incredibly vibrant. It is glowing. I just think it's phenomenal. So this is Bara Tricot and the colourway is Purple Dragon. It's in their Champagne 2.0 base. It's 70% silk, 20% mohair and 10% nylon, and it's 400 metres to 100 grams. It's just so good. So I don't know what I'm going to knit with this yet, but I know whatever it needs to be will have to be something relatively simple, because, you know, we do have this kind of texture and we have this vibrancy, so I don't want to go for anything like too complex, because I think anything like lace or cables or texture actually is just going to get swallowed up by the yarn. So it needs to be, the focus I think needs to be more on the shape of whatever it is that I knit rather than on the qualities of the fabric, because the fibre is really going to, and the colour of the fibre is really going to bring that showstopper quality. So there we go. Just in love. I didn't know this company at all, and I'm so glad that I got some of that yarn to take home with me. The second thing that I came away with that evening was this little set here. How cute are these? These are 100% silk. They're tiny. You see that? They're really little. They're 100% silk. It's 10 5-gram skeins. So 50 grams altogether. 266 metres, 290 yards. The silky way, can you see that? So they had these in 3 different colour palettes. I got this one, Mum got a different one. And yes, it came with a lovely pattern, which you can use, or you can maybe go off piste and do something a bit different, which is what I'm thinking I might do, not least because this is from Biscotte Yarns, again a company I had not heard of before I went, but my mum actually got me this yarn here, which is also Biscotte, which is this beautiful dark kind of plummy red, like a Merlot shade. It's the Louise Robert collection, and it's Patisserie Anne Boleyn. So is that the name? It might be Anne Boleyn is the colour. It's the Petite Souris, and it's 75% baby souris, 25% mulberry silk. And I was thinking that actually these would go really beautifully together, but that's not really in the pattern that's been included in the little set there. So I'm going to be doing some thinking. So that first evening, this is what I left with, which is not bad going. Then I don't think I did any shopping on the Saturday, because the Saturday was really like the main day of the marketplace, but Mum and I had classes in the morning and in the afternoon. So we had a little bit of time in the afternoon. I was not feeling so great on the Saturday, I think because of whatever is going on with my ear. I had a little bit of vertigo and I wasn't quite feeling 100%. So we had a little look at around the marketplace at lunchtime, and then we left to get some fresh air and get something to eat. So I don't think we bought anything. However, we did attend a yarn toss, simply because we had no idea what a yarn toss was and we'd never been to one, and I thought it would be like a bouquet toss, you know, like at a wedding, and it kind of was. Although what we also learned at a yarn toss is that you really need to be like close to the front, because those balls of yarn are not particularly heavy, and they're not going to make their way all the way to the back. So we didn't get any yarn in the yarn toss, but it was very funny, and we did enjoy ourselves. And yeah, so we did that, and then the Saturday evening I'm about to share the yarn that I got there. But then on the Sunday was when we went back and we did a little bit more shopping. So I'll show you what I got then, which is I got a sweater quantity. I'll show you that side, that's better, Amy. A sweater quantity of this glorious yarn from Peru. The company is Kinua, Kinua. This is the luxury blend fingering in the colourway Italian Kiss. And I will say that I got the last kiss. There was none left after I got these. 80% fine Peruvian merino wool and 20% baby Suri alpaca. And it's 100 grams to 383 metres or 418 yards. I got 4 skeins of this. Can you see that? It is so, so beautiful, and it feels amazing. So I have more than enough with 4 skeins at almost 400 metres to knit a garment, to knit a sweater. So I got a sweater quantity of this, and I did buy another sweater quantity at Circle of Stitches, which I think is a yarn shop. Sorry, all the crinkling. Get the yarn out, then talk. Okay. I got some more yarn from Circle of Stitches, who I think are a yarn shop based in Salem. They have a yarn festival happening, I think, in April, which is kind of like got tarot readers and kind of like a sort of a witchy and pagan emphasis on it. If I was closer, I would totally be all over this. It looks so interesting and really brilliant. But the yarn that I bought from them, and I really swithered over whether to get their exclusive spin cycle yarn, which I now am spacing on what it was called, but it was very pretty. But then I saw this, and instead I bought 3 skeins of this, which cost me just slightly more than 2 skeins of the spin cycle would have. And it's, oh my goodness. So it's Dragon Horde Yarns. Again, this is a new to me dyer. And it's in their Myth fingering. So it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards for 100 grams. And the colourway is Dark Romance. Look at this. Is that not spectacular? I think that is just absolutely beautiful. So again, I think I've got enough for a sweater quantity there, because that's, you know, just around about 1200 meters. So I don't know what it will be yet, but very much in love. So there you go. Do you know what it reminds me of? Like a magpie. You know, magpie feathers? They kind of have that kind of iridescence about them, and this kind of yarn really speaks to that, I think. So thrilled with that. And then my last purchase was from Lily Loops, and this is the lace weight Mohair silk, 72% mohair, 28% silk. I don't think it's got a colourway, unfortunately, because, oh my god, isn't that amazing? Look at that. I love this section here. And this was $25, which I thought was actually very reasonable. So I have yarn, I have more mohair, which is kind of this sort of shade of green, and I have mohair that's this amazing pop of pink. So I effectively, this is like my transition between, in a fade, to go from like forest green to hot pink. So I don't know quite how I'm going to use it or what I'm going to use it for, but yeah, very, very fun to have I do like to have some hand-dyed variegated mohair, like just a single skein or a collection of single skeins in my stash, because I think they do really kind of bring, they kind of elevate, I think, a shawl, or you can hold it double and use it in the colour work of a jumper, or yeah, there's a lot I think you can do. I think they're very versatile, and I think they're quite fun. They're almost like little jewels inside your stash. Isn't that spectacular? So there you go. That's what I bought. Okay, oh my goodness. Are you ready for what I was given? And I'm not going to spend like a huge amount of time on this because I realise that we are, you know, we're cracking on. But but what I will share is that when we registered, we got this beautiful book here, which is Brooklyn Tweed's Knit and Crochet Blankets. I love this book. I had actually spent some time exploring this book, and before we received it, I'm thrilled to have this in my collection. I think there are just a number of spectacular patterns, even like the more neutral shades, but the textures. And at the back there's a lovely section where Jared speaks about his mum's quilt that she sewed and his tribute using yarn knitted. And so then it's basically, I think, using the log cabin method, and then he shows you how to apply that to create different quilt patterns. It's very clever, and yeah, I'm really excited to explore this one more. And then the other book that we received on registration was the Vogue Knitting Lace 40 Bold and Delicate Knits, which is a lovely publication as well, and it's got like quite a wide range. So you've got some like jumper patterns, you've got sock patterns, you've got shawl patterns like this. So there's a lot of information there. Oh, there you go, even skirt patterns. So it's actually a wedding dress. Oh my goodness, look at that. So yes, there are like a number of beautiful patterns in there as well. So that's going to be worth exploring. I have seen this one before, and I think it's in my favourites. I do think that's really elegant. So yes, we got these. Look at this. It's a lace hoodie. How amazing is that? Anyway, so we got those two, and we also got this pattern for the grist hat. And we received these two skeins of Imbue Sport, and I got them in the colourway Crepe. No, yeah, that's more of the colour. So it's kind of like a soft creamy beige, and it's got like little flecks in it as well. Oh, I just dropped it. Oh, and it's rolled underneath there. There it is. Can you see that? You've got these kind of little flecks of like caramel. It's very pretty, but it's really not me. It's not my colours at all. So I'll maybe have a think about what I'm going to do with this, whether I knit this up for somebody else or whether I give the yarn to a friend. So not quite sure, but the yarn itself is incredibly soft. It feels delicious. I'm sure it'd be a delight to knit. My other alternative is that I will over dye it. So there are options. So anyway, I think that's most of what we received in the registration pack. And then we had the cocktail reception where we got these little packets here, and we received Noro Knitting Magazine. I ended up with two of these because I also got one in the gala. Look at that, in the gala bag as well. So some Noro magazines, and there's a set of needles, and there were these packs of cards, because everything was sponsored by GoSadie, so we had these little packs of cards that were sitting on the table as well. So yes, there's a variety of things inside that too. And then moving on to the gala dinner, this is the yarn that was in the bag, plus a Noro magazine, plus tote bags, etc, etc. So I mean, it was just enormous, and I apologise again for the crinkling. Now, I did a couple of swaps with my mum before I came home. My mum lives over in France, I live over here, so if we were going to do any swaps, it needed to be then. And some of the things that she got in her bag were more my colours, and some of the things I had were more her colours, and so we did a little bit of a swap, but not really extensively. And we ended up with the same amount. This isn't actually, this yarn here, I've got two of these. This was part of my bingo win, so that's what I got. I got this and these, and it's in here, and a crochet hook. That was at the cocktail reception. You heard of furls? Furls. So I got this lovely, quite hefty crochet hook. It's a 6mm one. So I have that. And I got those 2 skeins of lovely mohair. So that wasn't in the goodie bag, but I've just popped that in there. So yes, we have this little selection here from African Expressions. I was thinking this would be really fun to put in. Do you know that beautiful shawl design from Neons and Neutrals by Julia Wilkins called Punked? Is it called Punked? And it's basically a mohair shawl with intarsia circles knitted into it, and I was thinking that would be so fun to have these different textured circles knitted into like a mohair background. I then have some rather outrageous African Expressions fluorescent yellow. In fact, that's so bright, I'm not even sure you can see it. I think it's blowing everything out. I then have, I think I ended up with 2 of these because Mum didn't want hers because they weren't her colours. But again, these are Suri alpaca, 25 grams from Penna Universal Yarn. I think the base is called Penna, and it's from Universal Yarn. So I've got these 2 colours. I have some Rowan Sock, 100 grams, in kind of this lovely gradient shade. I got this Manos del Uruguay silk blend, single ply yarn. I got Bossa Nova Merino, just kind of like, it's quite a strange colour actually. It's almost like a bronzy, bronze actually is probably a good way to describe that colour. I got a little Purl Soho linen quill mini in the colourway Magnolia Blossom. I also got a linen quill note, but it was in kind of a lovely sort of soft yellow shade, and I gave that to my mum because my littlest nephew loves yellow, and he has recently lost his yellow hat that his grandma knitted for him. So I have given Mum my linen quill note yarn in the yellow in order for a replacement to be provided. Then we've got Atenia tones, which is concept by Katia. So it's this kind of gradient yarn, and I think it's got some cashmere in it, does it? Let me see. Extra fine merino wool and cashmere, and it's a very fine weight. Feels very lovely and soft. And then I have these 2, again Mum gave me one of hers, because again these are not really her colours, but it's Sparkling Cotton by We Are Knitters, and I've got it in that very pale pink and in the black. So it'll be fun to do something with that. So that is pretty much everything, not including all of the tote bags that I got, which, yeah, my husband is now taken to offering random people tote bags, because he keeps saying I came home with so many. But that's the I Love New York, NYC. That's my tote bag. And then I took a tote bag with me, so I don't need to show you that one. This is the little one from Katya, Dear Yarn, I'm Ready, and it had that lovely merino cashmere yarn inside, and it had a little thing of crochet hooks too. I had my Go Sadie bag that we got at the cocktail evening and the games night, and this is the last one, the Y of Wool. That's a Brooklyn tweed tote, and a liquor one as well. So yes, I've got lots of tote bags. Lots of tote bags for all my lots of yarn. And then of course there was just, yeah, there's just like a, oh yeah, we got like a pouch of Eucalan samples. There was a emery board there. There was some wool soap. In fact, who's the wool soap from? Let me see if I can find that to show you. Greenpoint Garden, Brooklyn tweed, handcrafted wool soap. You see that? So just a little packet. There's the packet of Eucalan. And then there was some stitch markers. Let me see, there's the one from Circle of Stitches, where I got my, it's hard to show it to you because everything's kind of blowing out now because of the light, but it just says Circle of Stitches. So, and there were stickers and, yeah, all kinds of stickers. And codes for discounts, and Mum bought me these lovely little stitch markers as well to remember our time in New York, which is fun. There's the Katya crochet hooks that came with in the little pouch there, and then just like loads of flyers and all kinds of stuff. So it was just incredibly generous amounts of swag, I suppose. It was joyful and abundant and fun, and I cannot think of a better way to have started my mum's special birthday year off, and yeah, we just had an absolute blast. So I hope you've been given sort of a sense of our experience and how it's inspired my knitting, and how I am trying to integrate my classes and all the learning that I received, and what I'm doing with some of the inspiration that I got as well. So that really brings us towards the end of today's podcast episode, but I did just want to share a little bit with you about last Friday. We had a very powerful storm blast through the central belt of Scotland. While I was in New York, it was exceptionally cold. I think it got down to about -14. There was a bit of a snowstorm, so lots of people left early on the Sunday. We were not leaving until the Monday, so actually we were okay. Our flight was pushed back by a couple of hours though, which gave us some time to spend in Bryant Park on a little explore, seeing the icicles on the fountain and the piles of snow and the ice skaters, and it was all really lovely. But it was very, very cold. Well, that cold weather apparently supercharged the jet stream, and that then split, which then created this pocket of low pressure, which then deepened very rapidly and created Storm Éowyn, which then hit Ireland, Northern Ireland and the Scottish Central Belt. we had a red weather warning. I cannot remember us ever having it. I mean, maybe we have had one in the past, but I cannot remember having had a red weather warning. Everybody stayed at home, schools were closed, shops were closed, all the supermarkets were closed, government workers all told to stay home, restaurants were all closed, so everybody was just kind of hunkering down and kind of hoping for the best. We came through it relatively unscathed. There was a slate lying outside our flat, which means that we might have to get our roof inspected at some point, I imagine. But there was much more damage elsewhere. Some chimney stacks blown down, some structural damage caused, lots of trees down. And actually it's the trees that came down that I really wanted to speak to you about, because the Botanical Gardens of Edinburgh, which is only about 20-25 minutes walk from my front door, and it's a profoundly special place. It's a special place, I think, for many, many people. It holds a special place in the hearts of most people in Edinburgh, I would say. I feel very connected to it. It was a special place for my parents before I was even born, because it's where they used to go when they were doing their degrees at the University of Edinburgh. And it's been some place that they've taken my brother and I ever since we were small, and it's where we've then grown up and taken our children there, and now that my children have flown the nest, it's somewhere that I love to go to and find great joy and peace and grounding. And unfortunately, they were really hurt by Storm Éowyn. So they have lost 15 of their trees. Another 27 have been badly damaged. They've lost 150 panes from the greenhouse, and more have been damaged. They also have another 3 botanical gardens, much smaller, in more rural parts of Scotland, which have also suffered terrible losses. And so they're basically doing a fundraising events to try and requesting donations from people to try and repair some of what's been lost. They lost their tallest tree, which was planted in 1859, which is just really sad that these very old beings really just got walloped by this massive storm that kind of passed through. So I wanted to share with you, just to finish up then, this beautiful poem by Mary Oliver, because I think, well, whenever you are faced with challenges, and there's so many challenges and so many climate disasters going on right now around the world, that I think the natural world just invites us sometimes as a place to come to for reflection and to find perhaps helpful metaphors, helpful ways of seeing. So the poem that I want to share with you today is called The Trees, and it's by Mary Oliver. Do you think of them as decoration? Think again. Here are maples flashing, and here are the oaks holding on all winter to their dry leaves. And here are the pines that will never fail until death, the instruction to be green. And here are the willows, the first to pronounce a new year. May I invite you to revise your thoughts about them. O Lord, how we are all for invention and advancement. But I think it would do us good if we would think about these brothers and sisters, quietly and deeply. The trees, just holding on to the old holy ways. Okay, my darlings, I'm going to release you into the rest of your day, rest of your evenings, and I'll be with you again really soon. I'm sure there'll be lots of more making and more progress being made in all of these new cast-ons. And in the meantime, take good care and happy making.